Good afternoon and welcome to OmniDog's Vault. I'm OmniDog, so hello OmniDogs and OmniKittens. We are trying a new thing called Baturdays at the Batcave, where we are going to be talking about Batman every other week. I'm joined by big Batman fan Taylor Brown. Taylor, how's it going?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me, Jess.
We are going to, today, the main topic is going to be overrated and underrated Batman books. But let's hear a little bit about yourself first. You came to me with this idea because you're a huge Batman fan. And how long have you been a big Batman fan? Like your whole life?
I've been a big Batman fan since I can remember. I've always loved Batman, and hopefully one day we can have an episode about Batman the Animated Series, because that's what kicked off my love for Batman. So I was born in 1990, so I guess I'm a little bit younger than you.
1990? I got married in 1989.
Well, I won't draw attention to that anymore. But anyway, I was born in 1990, so that was a perfect time for a Batman fan to be born, because Batman 89 just came out, Batman Returns came out in 92, then the Batman Animated Series came out. I think that was also 1992. So I grew up in like the fertile grounds of Batman. And Batman's been my favorite character since I can remember. And I've been collecting Batman comics since I was probably 10 years old, but I've been collecting comics in earnest probably the past 5 years. So I've been able to amass a decent sized collection, mostly because of you guys on Omni Bros Live.
Nice.
And I came up with this idea because there's so many different Batman books coming out this year. A lot of different great books coming out. And I really wanted to be able to review them, talk about them. And I think Batman is such a rich character. There's so many topics you can cover. I feel like there's an endless amount of topics that we can discuss over the next several months and however long the show would go on for.
Yeah, you sent me a list that was quite a list, and it was several months worth of topics. And I thought,
yeah,
this sounds fun. I think that it would be a lot of fun to focus on these topics. And I don't know. I like talking about Batman, and I think that if you can, there's a lot of different facets of Batman, because just looking at the Snyder run and just looking at the King run, those two guys have tackled him from two very different vantage points, two different parts of his psyche, let's say.
Right.
And they're both great books, but they're both very different looks at Batman. So he's not a one-note character.
No, not at all. And I think you're spot on by talking about how different those runs are. And I love them both. I think that a lot of people have problems with Tom King's run because it is so personal, it is so psychological. I mean, he really does have a big plot that's progressing, but for the most part, his story is very slow. And it's not about hitting major plot points, it's about covering major character beats. Whereas I think that Snyder was really about the plot, and he was really focused in on Gotham City as a character. Whereas I don't think that Tom King is that interested in that question. He's more interested in the humanity of Batman and what makes him tick.
Right.
And I think that Scott Snyder is more interested in how Batman affects us as people and why Batman is so important. So I think that Snyder's is more like a meta narrative of how Batman affects us as people, whereas Tom King's run is a deep dive inside of Batman's psyche and really unpacking what makes him who he is. And I really think Tom King's run reads a lot better in collected edition. I did start off by reading it in single issues, and it was a little bit difficult, but I've been getting all the hardcovers, and I love reading it that way. It reads so much better as a completed story.
Yeah, ever since I gave up floppies, I think everything reads better as a collected edition. But I think there's certain things that read better, and like you say, Tom King's stuff. But that's one thing. Every video I do is like things were different when I was 10 years old, because that was 50 years ago. But there was, comic books used to be one and done in an issue, and so it was no problem to have a floppy. But then I noticed, I don't know, quite a few years ago, these 6-issue arcs, and you'd have to wait and wait and wait, and then there became 12-issue arcs, and then there became 3 hardcover arcs, like in Hick Vengers, where there were 6 hardcover arcs, and so it just became easier just to give up on floppies and say I'll just collect omnibuses and hardcovers, man. That's a lot easier. So
especially when they're $5 an issue now.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And you can get a thin trade for less than $10 on in-stock trades.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't see the point. I mean, if you collect single issues, more power to you. You're helping keep the comic book community alive. And that's your preferred format. That's great. I just prefer collected editions because I think they're, first of all, cheaper in the long run. And they're also just more cohesive and easily understandable as a whole.
Yeah, I totally agree. They flow a lot better.
But yeah, I love both Tom King and Scott Snyder. I don't want to pick a favorite right now because Tom King's not done yet. So I feel like I really can't pick a favorite.
Right.
I can see Tom King overtaking Scott Snyder if he sticks the landing, but we'll see.
Well, it's going to be, it's so hard now that DC's done this weird thing where they're not going to let him finish, but he's going to be given a 12-issue miniseries or something with Catwoman. I don't know how.
That was his choice, actually.
It was his choice.
I listened to an interview with him on iFanboy. You ever heard of iFanboy?
Yeah.
They have an interview segment called Talksplode, and they kind of dissected that. He has a TV project coming up he's writing, and he's also co-writing the New Gods movie.
Right. I'm excited for that.
And so he realized, I don't have enough time to do all these things, because you have to remember that Batman right now ships twice monthly. He has to write 2 Batman books a month. And he is writing for several different artists, and he has to work ahead a lot because he'll have Mikel Janin do one arc, he'll have Lee Weeks do another arc, he'll have Clay Mann do another arc. So he has to continually be thinking about each artist and writing issues for them ahead of time. And I think it got to the point where he just said, I can't do all of this the way I want to. And DC just said, well, how would you feel about us giving you a separate book where you end the run a little bit earlier, but you still have a chance to finish your story? And so it seems like it was a mutually agreed upon decision. It wasn't forced upon him. He wasn't pushed out.
Well, why hasn't that story gotten out?
Because the other one's more exciting. Because
I haven't heard that story at all. You're the first person to tell me that story.
Yeah, so I would encourage you to check out that episode. It was very recent. I think it was last week. It was very illuminating. It's him saying, I'm not being pushed out. It was just DC and I both decided it's best for both of us to go in this direction. And they're letting me finish my story, and they want me to finish this story. And apparently he has this big life-changing, Batman-changing moment that will forever change Gotham City or forever change Batman's life. And DC's still letting him do that.
In the Batman Catwoman run?
Right. So I guess the current Batman run with Tom King will end at issue 85, and then they're going to do Batman and Catwoman, which is 12 issues, like you said.
Okay, I'm okay with that as long as he's okay with that.
I'm okay with it as long as they finish the deluxe edition line. If they do not finish that, I'm going to be so upset and so annoyed.
Those deluxe editions are so awesome.
I mean, they canceled the Flash, I think, Volume 3, which is annoying to me because I have the first 2 volumes by Josh Williamson.
Yeah.
I have a problem whenever they cancel something that they've already published other volumes for.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just canceling it and you haven't published anything else from that line, okay, fine. But if I don't want to be stuck with 2 or 3 books that isn't going to be finished. That's just ridiculous to me.
No, I totally agree.
So Batman Volume 4, the deluxe edition by King, comes out this upcoming Tuesday.
Right.
And hopefully they'll solicit Volume 5 and Volume 6 in the near future. We'll see. It's DC, so we have no idea. Because the spine for this is already going to be a different design.
Yeah, it's going to be black or something.
Yeah, like they're not going to have the Rebirth spine on it anymore.
Yeah.
The white and the blue and the black, but whatever. As long as it's in that format, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I loved having those deluxes. Those were so nice. And I would like to keep the deluxes. Not a big fan of standard size. So but I will say that everything that DC is now solicited, like Jonah Hex Bronze Age, things like that. Jonah Hex Bronze Age. What else do they do? Aquaman Silver Age omnibus. I don't think they're going to cancel. I think they've got everything squared away, and I just don't think they're going to cancel stuff willy-nilly like they did. I think they've reset everything they put out. They're going to publish. I'm just going out on a limb. I got nothing to base it on except my good looks.
Well, you're the optimistic one in the Omni Bros network, while Louise is always the one who rains on everyone's parade and said it won't be released. So I guess you have to be the optimist.
Yeah, he's always making bets with me that he never pays off.
But looking at the chat, someone pointed out a mistake that I made. Flash Volume 4 Deluxe was canceled, not 3. They're right. There are 3 Deluxes that I have. The 4th one was canceled, so sorry about that. And E. Tyler Lindvall is flirting with me, which is weird. He says that this co-host is almost as pretty as your walk in the woods at midnight co-host. Isn't that his wife?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, E. Tyler Lindvall. I appreciate that. Makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah. The new cover design for the Bronze Age omnibus. Yeah. I don't know. As long as they come out, I'm okay with it.
I mean, the new cover design looks a lot better. The old designs are kind of, I don't know. They're kind of lackluster to me. That weird brown color. I mean, I get it because it's the Bronze Age.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks the coolest. The new ones look pretty interesting. But like
that Kirby one looks really cool.
Right. And it won't match up well on the shelf, but at least it'll look nice.
Yeah. I'm not a big Fourth World fan. Thank you, ETL. I appreciate that. I don't know that I'm prettier than your wife, but I appreciate that I'm the prettiest of them all. That's very sweet of you. That I'm not the biggest Fourth World fan, but I'm a big fan of his other stuff that's coming out in the kind of extras that he has with like the Losers and the Mob one and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'm not a big Silver Age person,
right?
But I mean, I was kind of born a little bit too late for that.
Right. But, yeah, and it can be difficult to read if you didn't grow up with it like I did.
It's really
I get it.
It's really hard for me to read comics before the 80s. It just really is.
Totally get it. I don't blame you. I understand.
I try to enter into it as like, okay, I understand that it's different. It's a different era. I have to remember that they were being paid by the word sometimes, so they're being very wordy, exposition heavy. It's just, I don't know, it's just difficult for me. It's more of a slog than an enjoyment. And like you guys always talk about on the channel, we have to narrow our collections down to things that we enjoy and things that we'll keep reading.
Yeah.
And that's something I've just had to not even touch at this point.
Well, speaking of things we're going to keep reading, underrated Batman books, I consider books that I will keep reading. The cultivating, the curating that I'm doing in my collection right now, it's either books I haven't read yet or books that I have read and I'm going to reread. If I've read it and I'm not going to reread it, out the door it's going. So these underrated Batman books are books that I'm keeping and rereading.
Right.
And when I say underrated, everybody has a different maybe definition of underrated.
We're not talking about Dark Knight Returns or Long Halloween here. We're talking about books that people do enjoy, but they're not as celebrated as we think they should be.
Right.
They might be under the radar for the casual Batman fan.
Sure.
So just to clarify our terms.
Hey, there's my buddy Michael Lombardo. How you doing, buddy?
Hey now.
Hey now.
Jess will reread Kevin Smith Batman and then sweet root beer coat. Have a sweet root beer coating.
Wait, I didn't see that. Did that just pop up? Oh,
yeah.
Jess will reread Kevin Smith Batman. That sweet root beer. No.
You haven't had a root beer bath in a long time.
I
Soda book
just
and root beer.
I just did come to a moral decision. Faria helped me come to it. It's a terrible story by an author that's my favorite writer,
Okay.
and I've decided in my next book review it's going to get a root beer bath.
Okay. At first, I thought you were saying Faria was talking you out of it, and I was like, I think Faria would be all for you pouring root beer in a bad
she
book.
is.
She has a righteous vengeance for bad
She
comic books.
does.
She really brings down the hammer when she doesn't like something.
Yeah, and she talked me into it, and so I am getting my next review. It's getting root beer poured on it, this particular book, and I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah, you really. I mean, you really can't do it too much. It lessens the impact of it.
Right, exactly. And
the book has to be that offensive to you that it's worthy of not just being donated or thrown away. You're literally going to destroy it at every level of its structure.
it needs to make me angry, is what it does. It takes a lot to make me angry, especially in something about. It needs to make me angry in the field of comic books, because even just a mediocre comic book, it doesn't make me angry. I'm just like, oh well, they tried, good for them. It's okay. But because I love comic books. I mean, I just love the whole field. I love everything about them. And when I get done with it and it's such a waste of time and it's just such an egregious use of pen and paper, and it's just I mean, I'll explain it before I do it next time, but it's just when a comic book makes me angry that I read it, that it had the nerve to call itself a comic book, and it's so bad. You know, people get angry at me that I do that, saying pouring root beer on comic books is wrong. Well, first of all, it's my book and I can do whatever I want with it. You
paid for it. It's yours.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's so bad I don't want to donate it. I don't want anybody to see this thing and consider it a representative of the comic book world. I would never want someone to read Cacophony or Widening Gyre by Kevin Smith, those Batman books, and think those were, what people consider good comic books. Yeah. Those were awful. I don't want anybody to, if I had the money, I'd buy up every single copy in the world and get them off the shelves.
Right.
They should not be out there as representative of comic books.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like trying to introduce someone to comic book movies and showing them Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage. Like you're just trying to alienate them at that point. Especially for newcomers, like giving it to a young kid or donating it to a library where kids will read it. You don't want them to have bad experiences, because comics are so formative and they can help kids get into reading. You don't want to make them hate reading by giving it a bad book.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you, and I think it's really funny. So I don't really care.
Right. Well, next review, this book's getting it.
All right. Well, I'll look forward to it.
Awesome. My first underrated book, it has art by the late, great Seth Fisher, who I think he died as a young man, but boy, his art was, let me highlight myself so I can start showing some of this art. It's called Batman Snow. This particular book is out of print, but you can still get it in the Batman J.H. Williams Tales of the Batman. And this art is fantastic. The reason J.H. Williams helped, wait a minute, it's got Curtis Johnson and J.H. Williams and Curtis Johnson wrote it. So you can get it in the J.H. Williams Tales of the Batman because J.H. Williams wrote it. But Seth Fisher's the main draw here because the art is so interesting and pristine and beautiful, and it tells a really interesting Mr. Freeze story. And I just think that Seth Fisher died too young and didn't leave enough of a body of work behind. He also did a Green Lantern story called Will World, which was amazing. And his artwork is just remarkable. And this book had a really good J.H. Williams story in it with Dan Curtis, who wrote Chase. And I think this is underrated, and that the problem is, of course, is it's out of print, and the only place to get it is the Tales of the Batman book by J.H. Williams.
Is that readily accessible?
The J.H. Williams?
Yeah.
I do not think that it is out of print.
Okay.
Like Jim Aparo one.
Tales of the Batman by J.H. Williams?
Tales of the Batman by J.H. Williams III.
I'll look it up to see for everyone in the chat.
Yeah, then I'll be really embarrassed.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that we know if it's in print or not. I'll let you know. Keep talking.
Okay. Well, that's fine. And the problem is that this book went out of print, and I don't know why they don't reprint it, because maybe because he's passed away, or maybe because it's available in the J.H. Williams book, but it's a great Mr. Freeze. It's a Mr. Freeze that you haven't seen before, as you can see right there. And I just found it to be a compellingly written story with really remarkable art, and it's a really good story that nobody talks about. Batman Snow.
Yeah, I've never even heard of Seth Fisher as an artist.
That
remember
is really a bummer. Well, that's why I'm trying to tell you about him, because he's underrated.
Right, and apparently it is for sale for hardcover on Amazon. It's $29 plus $6 in shipping. There's only one left in stock.
What about IST? Do they have it?
I'm trying to find it. Sometimes it's hard to find stuff on IST. I'll have to check.
Okay.
Later. I'm not seeing it right now on IST. Usually, if it's that out of stock on Amazon, it's probably not on IST. But I could be wrong.
But even if you have to get it digitally, it's worth getting digitally.
Right.
Just because it's really cool art. I love, and the Will World book by for Green Lantern is trippy. It is very trippy, and it's that's an unusual Green Lantern book. It's really great.
And do you have any idea when Batman Snow originally came out?
I will tell you in one moment. 2007.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. 2005. I apologize. It's in Batman Legends of the Dark Knight 192 through 196.
Okay, so yeah, like 14 years ago.
Batman Snow itself, the book, came out 2007, but it came out in Batman Legends of the Dark Knight.
All right, cool. I'll definitely try to check that out if I can.
And I think you'd dig it.
The art looks really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Really interesting.
I don't know. I'm going to have to look up and see what else he did besides this in Will World, because he died very young, and it's really a tragedy. He had so much potential and was such a good artist.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good first choice, and I hope I can find it somehow.
Yeah.
I'll try my library or something. That's usually my backup plan.
Yeah. I wonder what it would be if, like, on eBay, if they even have it there on eBay.
Your friend Michael Lombardo said he got his copy at Ollie's, the J.H. Williams Tales of the Batman. So,
good.
A local Ollie's, maybe they have it. I don't
have an Ollie's.
Me either. I don't have that, or I think my nearest second in Charles is like an hour away. But yeah, maybe it's readily available on eBay. But
it is $30.
The Snow paperback or the J.H. Williams one?
The Snow paperback.
Not too bad. Probably was a cover value of 20.
Cover value of 15.
Okay, so it's double cover.
Let's see what previously it is sold for. 21, 12, 26, 18. So if you're patient, you could find it for a lot cheaper.
Okay.
On eBay. I would, if you're really interested, I would, save the search, and when it pops up cheap, I'd nab it. Or else go for the J.H. Williams book, sure.
Yeah, I might end up doing the second option you just laid out, looking for the hardcover.
Yeah.
Because J.H. Williams is a great artist.
Yeah, and I think it's got a lot of his stories too.
It doesn't have any of the Batwoman stuff, does it? Because that's in its own hardcover with Greg Rucka, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But you know what? I'd have to pull the book to look to see if it has any Batwoman stuff.
Okay, got it. All right, cool.
I mean, you want me to pull the book and look?
No, it's okay.
You sure? It's right there. I mean, I can do it.
All right, might as well.
All I have to do is move an action figure.
And thank you to everyone interacting in the chat. We will have a decent amount of people here, actually.
Oh, do we?
Looks like it.
Let's see. Batman Legends of the let's see cover. So he's drawing Legends of the Dark Knight 86 through 88.
Okay.
He wrote Batman Annual 21 Screams of the Green Dragon. He drew Batman 550. Drew There's Snow. Legends of the Dark Knight. No, he did. There's no Batwoman in here. Lots of his writing and lots of his art.
I still need to get that Greg Rucka Batwoman run. I don't have that.
The whole thing or just the elegy?
I don't have any of it. I know. I need to get it. And I love Greg Rucka, so there's no excuse not to have it.
Oh my goodness.
That's pretty readily available too.
Yeah, it is.
I'll have to pick that up.
It is remarkably remarkable.
That's what I've heard. I heard, did the J.H. Williams run that ended very prematurely?
For New 52, yeah.
Right. Okay.
It was when they were anti-marriage and they wouldn't let them get married.
Right.
It didn't have anything with them being lesbians.
Okay. Just, yeah, there was no marriage at that time at all. Got it.
Yeah, they wouldn't let Clark and Lois get married either.
Right. All right. That's what I thought.
But yeah, so like the first Batwoman New 52's trade paperbacks were really good, and they were all really good up until the ending, which just like stopped, and you were like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, that's always the worst whenever a story isn't allowed to be finished and complete.
Yeah,
it just leaves you feeling hanging, just like I read all that for no reason.
But I took all the comic single issues that involved elegy. I just took all the Greg Rucka J.H. Williams issues and had them bound into an omnibus. I just called it the Greg Rucka J.H. Williams omnibus.
Oh, cool.
And it's all of Rucka's and J.H. Williams pre-New 52 stuff. So, yeah, it's got all of the elegy and everything else in it.
L. Denver says, you can't stop Jess, only hope to contain him. Well, I don't know what that's a reference to, but he apparently has a high opinion of you.
That they used to say that about Marshall Falk. That's awesome. Oh, and there's Blue G. I haven't seen Blue G in forever. How you doing, Blue G? What's your first underrated pick?
So my first underrated pick is Batman Cacophony by Kevin.
It is not.
No, it's not. I've never even read it. I've never even tried it. I saw it at Half Price Books really cheap, and I said, that's too expensive. Even $0 is too expensive for my time.
Right.
I'm out there with a pretty out there pick. It's a well-known book, but I don't think enough people have read it. And that's Batman Year 100 by Paul Pope.
Oh, I looked at that. I'm looking at it right now, and I thought, that is a good choice. That is a really good choice. He did an excellent job in that book.
Here's the dust jacket for the deluxe edition. I believe they also have a paperback edition. But for those of you who haven't read this book yet, it's called Batman Year 100 because it's set 100 years after Batman's first appearance in 1939. So it's set in the year 2039. And it's very much Batman meets Blade Runner. And if that sounds cool to you, you need to buy it as soon as possible. And if that doesn't appeal to you, I understand. But if you're a big science fiction, dystopian future person, this is the book for you. and you should definitely pick it up. I've never read anything else by Paul Pope, but his art is so good. I don't know if you've read anything else by Paul Pope.
I have read Heavy Liquid, Battling Boy, 100%. I pretty much read everything by Paul Pope.
Yeah, the art is just so, it's so unique and it stands out. It's almost like a manga anime type style, even though we're both not really into manga or anime. I just love the way he draws Batman. I think it's so cool. And I really love how Batman in this story just goes all out. He's ferocious. He actually wears like these fake sharpened teeth to scare people even more. And it's just awesome. And I love it. And it's like, again, his art is just amazing. And it really pops. I'm trying to find the part where he pops in the dentures with the teeth. But it has a future version of Gordon. It's Gordon's grandson, I believe. And also he has his own version of Robin. And the really interesting part of this book is that you have no idea if this is Bruce Wayne or not. You have no idea if it's this Bruce Wayne who's found a way to live on somehow, or if it's some other person who has picked up the mantle of Batman. And I love that ambiguity. And here's the scene of him popping in those dentures with the sharp teeth, which I love that part.
I know, it's so awesome.
Tying back to Batman Begins, the whole point of him wearing the Batman costume is to strike fear into those who prey on the fearful, right? And so this version of Batman goes all out with that. And he is like, he ratchets it up to 11 and just really tries to terrify people. And the best way to describe Gotham City at this time is that it's like a Nazi police state where it's like run by capitalist businesses. It's run by the police. It's very corrupt. Gotham City's in a very bad place. Even though there's not much crime, it's pretty much run by criminals. And so it's a really interesting book. I can see why some people may not like it, just because it is so out there and because it is so different and it's not the usual Batman. You just have to go into it knowing it's an Elseworlds tale. That it's not set in continuity. And you need to go in with an open mind knowing it's going to be a lot different. And looking at this book, I want to reread it again. I've only read it once. I just really enjoyed this book. Because I love sci-fi. It's one of my favorite genres. And so mashing sci-fi and Batman, that's a winning combination in my book.
If you like that, they're coming out with a new version of Heavy Liquid.
Okay.
By Paul Pope. And you really need to read that. That is an awesome, awesome book. It's not a hard book to read at all. It's got great artwork and it's remarkable. I highly recommend that one to you.
Yeah, Chris M just asked, how old is Batman Year 100? I believe it came out in 2006 or 2007. If I had to guess, I think it's 2006. So it's not too old, but it's also like 13 years old. And so it's only 4 issues. It's not long, but it's still a decent size hardcover. I think it's just 4 issues long. And you can either get it, like I said earlier, in hardcover deluxe, which I would recommend for this artwork, or you can get it in a standard size trade paperback, I believe.
Trade paperback? What are we, peasants here?
I know. If you can get the oversized hardcover, just get it.
Yeah, it's coming out in a new deluxe in July, I think.
Are they going to publish it under Black Label or something?
I do not know the answer to that.
That sounds like something DC would do right now. Because this isn't for kids, by the way. If you're looking for a book for your kids, don't get this for them. Hopefully you knew that whenever I told you Batman puts in vampire teeth. Like, that's not really something you're going to want your kids to read.
Yeah.
I just think the way he does panels, the way he draws action is so clear. It's so fluid. It's so dynamic. It's just so unique from anything else that has been done for Batman. And so that is my first choice. And a lot of people love this book, and I just don't think it's as beloved as it should be. That's why I decided to pick it.
Right, I agree.
I think for a lot of people, it just seems too weird and too out there. But it's definitely rewarding.
I 100% agree. I love that book. That's the problem with doing shows like this, is it reminds me of, 5 other books that I need to read, and my 10-foot tall stack of books I need to read makes me add a bunch of things onto it.
Or it reminds me of things I need to reread, and I ignore the things I haven't read yet.
Yeah.
That and coming up with this list caused me to reread a bunch of books. So that's what happens when you do shows like this, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
It is. It is.
My next one is I don't know that it gets enough credit for being a remarkable story. I think it got lost in the event, I'm going to say, and I don't think the event was very popular. And what followed the event, I don't think was very popular. I'm talking about Flashpoint, and then I'm talking about New 52. In sort of a general sense, I don't think they were as successful as DC wanted them to be. I enjoyed Flashpoint. I had all of Flashpoint custom bound. And I enjoyed a lot of New 52 titles. But in Flashpoint, the event itself, there's a book, Batman Night of Vengeance by Brian Azzarello. And the way you can get it is Batman, Brian Azzarello, and Eduardo Rizzo.
I was going to pick that as my underrated choice, but I knew you were going to pick it.
Oh, you did?
Because you always talk about that story. And I'm like, I know Jess is going to pick it, so there's no reason for me to do that. So I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, I totally agree with you. That's a great book. That's a great story.
Night of Vengeance is, I believe in my world, it is the greatest Batman story I have ever read, and I'll tell you why. There's a question in my mind as to the way Rebirth is being written now. This story happened because of the Button and because of things that happened in the Button issue. This story happened. So I'm going to say that this story actually happened and was not an Elseworld story, that these Flashpoint stories actually happened as a result of Barry's goofing around with the timeline.
It definitely does. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, no, good. Go ahead.
I don't want to spoil anything, but let me just say Flashpoint Batman plays a huge role in Tom King's Batman run.
Yes.
So
I
totally agree with you. All this stuff is coming out now. Thomas Wayne from that universe plays a huge role because remember, you already mentioned it, the Button issues, he was in that.
Yeah.
He's also coming into this story right now. So this
which I'm not caught up on. Right.
So this is definitely essential reading, I believe, to really understand the impact of Thomas Wayne in the current Tom King Batman run.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Okay, so this totally did happen, and so it's totally even more awesome because of it. So in this, Thomas Wayne is the one who survived. His son Bruce was shot in Flashpoint, and Thomas Wayne owns a casino. Eduardo Rizzo's art is just absolutely wonderful in it. It looks like, I forget that the main thing is that Thomas Wayne is the Batman. And he's a billionaire with a casino empire. And for people that haven't read this, I don't want to spoil it because I'm telling you now, it made my jaw drop. The twist made my jaw drop, changed my life, made me question my choices in life, made me go, how did that happen? How did nobody ever think about that before? It was the most amazing twist that I've ever seen in a comic book. And
sounds like quite the cathartic experience, Jess.
I've never, the problem is whenever I want to tell Brian Azzarello that. It's like at Baltimore, he was there last year, but the Damned, Batman Damned had just come out, and everybody wanted his autograph on that stupid book. And so I couldn't get in line and tell him that. I mean, I want to make a really I want to tell him from the heart how much that story meant to me, because it was really transformative and amazing and remarkable to me. This Batman story, Night of Vengeance, is just amazing. I just it doesn't get nearly enough praise as the twist of the century. It doesn't get nearly enough praise as the emotional pulling on the heartstrings book that it is. I don't think, and it plays a huge role in Flashpoint and a huge role in Rebirth. Now apparently it plays an even bigger role than I knew, because I'm a trade waiter. So apparently in the single issues it's playing an enormous role. So I just cannot say enough about Night of Vengeance, and I don't want to show any more because I feel like I might be getting too close to the to the reveal. But this book is also remarkable for another thing, which I think is something dumb. Where is this?
Christian O asks if you can show the cover of the book.
Sure. Yeah, it's right here. Batman by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Rizzo. And it's got Broken City, which I think is fine, but a lot of people don't like it. I don't know why.
I really liked it.
I did too, but some people don't like Broken City.
You know, to be honest, the first two issues, I was kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but it really pulled it out in the end, and it was a good story.
Yeah, I thought so too. It's got Night of Vengeance, Gotham Knights, and then it makes the very odd choice. Where is this?
You mean those Saturday morning like newspaper strips?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really hard to read.
I have Wednesday Comics up there on the big part of my shelf, and they shrunk them down. Wednesday Comics were the size of comic strips when I was growing up, so they're huge, and they shrunk them down and put them in this book, the Batman strips, which were done by Azzarello and Rizzo, and so they're really tiny here, and it's a little bit of a chore to read them, so it's kind of up to the reader if he's going to go through it and read them. But 3 out of the 4 are averaging from extremely good to fantastic, and then there's Wednesday Comics, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, this is my underrated next choice.
And so ETL asks a question. You might be the better person to answer this because of your love for Flashpoint. Do you guys think we'll ever get a Flashpoint Omni or fat Flashpoint collected editions? There's an absolute right now, isn't there?
There's an absolute for Flashpoint.
Okay.
Gosh, you know, it's always hard to be put in the collected editions department of either big two company.
Because their choices make no sense to me most of the time.
I'm afraid I have to agree with that. I went ahead and custom bound all my Flashpoint books. So it sure would be a lot easier to read if they came out with omnis and then tie-ins, a couple of tie-in omnis. And I liked Flashpoint. I thought that it took a chance, that it made things different, that it really ramped it up and made things especially different. But I don't know, they just came out with the Flashpoint Absolute, so it's still on DC's radar.
I think it would have been more of an option if they were going to do the Flashpoint live action movie, which they were planning to do, but they totally scrapped that. And now they're doing the weird thing where Ezra, I think it's Ezra Miller, right? Him and Grant Morrison are writing the script, which That's very.
Oh
strange to
yeah.
me. I don't know if that's still happening, but that was a very strange choice. I mean, I'm very hit or miss with Grant Morrison, but him writing a screenplay with the actor who hasn't written anything else, like, what's going on?
That
That's just
was,
strange to me.
yeah, me too.
But I think that we would have had a much better chance of having an Omni or collected editions if that movie was coming out, which it's just going to be a Flash movie at this point, if it ever even does come out.
Yeah.
That movie's been rumored for a very long time.
Yeah, so I don't have high hopes for a Flashpoint Omni.
But I agree with you. I think Flashpoint is good, and it has one of my favorite Batman moments of all time. I would say top 5 Batman moments at the very end. I don't want to spoil it, but you probably know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever watch the Flashpoint Paradox, the animated Disney movie, Kevin Conroy voicing that, it makes you want to cry because it's amazing. That final moment was just, for a Batman fan, it just was amazing, and I really love that. So if you're a Batman fan, you've never read Flashpoint, or you've never watched the Flashpoint Paradox, definitely get on that because it has one of the best Batman moments, in my opinion.
Flashpoint Paradox. I've never seen it.
It's pretty much the Flashpoint main series book in a movie form.
Oh, okay.
They just renamed it the Flashpoint Paradox. It's the same exact story with some embellished details and some added things.
I'm going to need about a 2-week lead time on Batman the Animated Series show because I haven't seen it since it first came out, and I'm going to need to watch every single one of them again before we do it.
Okay, Jess, I'm going to be honest here. You need to go and buy the Blu-ray as soon as possible. Batman the Animated Series, go to Amazon, get the Blu-ray. It's so good.
Isn't there some weird thing going on with it though?
Well, they had the original like collector's edition, which I got when it first came out. And now they have a cheaper version of it, where it's not like the main. It's like there was a limited edition collector's item that came out last October, and now there's a different edition of it. But let me look on Amazon. But you definitely need to get that, not just for our show, but just to make your life better.
Right.
It's like, what was that one book you said? This will make your life better.
Oh yeah. I forget now.
Yeah, so yeah, it is on Amazon for $70, which sounds steep, but it's a lot of stuff.
And now is that a good Blu-ray print? Is that good?
The one that I have is great, the collector's edition item. This one, I can't speak to the physical copy of it because I don't have this one, but I'm sure that the digital transfer is the same thing. I'm sure the way they have everything set up, like the menu and everything, and the visuals are pretty much the same.
I'll talk to Gio. He's my Blu-ray guy, and same with Lou.
Because the one I have sold out because it was limited edition.
Yeah.
So you can't get that one, but you can still get it in Blu-ray.
Okay.
I obviously can't make you do it. I'm just saying, strongly suggest that you get it.
No, I know. I know I need it. No, I agree. I need it. Yeah.
But that was a great choice, though. I really love Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Risso's work overall, especially on Batman.
I agree.
Should I go to my next choice?
Yes, please.
So my next choice, going back to an author we already discussed, is New Gotham by Greg Rucka.
Ah, yeah.
And so this is his detective run collected. So the first volume collects Detective Comics 742 to 753. That's New Gotham Volume 1. That's the spine. And then the second trade paperback collects Detective Comics 755 to 765, as well as Superman number 168, which was also written by Rucka. And I really enjoy this book. I mean, me saying Greg Rucka wrote it should be enough for all of you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read anything that I disliked by him yet. I don't know about you, Jess.
Yeah, I read one thing.
Oh, okay. But it's a really good book. I can see how the art might not be for everybody. It's kind of cartoony. It's by Sean Martinborough. I forget how to say his name. But I really dig the art, even though it's very cartoony and very simplistic. But doing simplistic art styles is still difficult. And I love the covers by Dave Johnson, too, who did the 100 Bullets covers. So I really dig it. And I think it's really cool, as you've already seen in some of the things I've shown, that every single arc has a different color palette. This one is black and red. And then the next one, where it's a Renee Montoya story, it's blue and yellow. And each palette matches the tone and the theme of the book, which I found really interesting. And I just really love these stories because it's Batman as a detective, which we don't see all the time, even within the pages of Detective Comics, which is unfortunate. I think a lot of times, in my opinion, I think Detective Comics should really be reserved for smaller Batman stories. I really did enjoy James Tynion's run. I really thought it was a great story, but I like it when it's more focused in on the small aspects of crime in Gotham City. I really liked how he went in a different direction, but I kind of like stories like this a little bit more in Detective Comics that focus in on Batman as a detective. But that's just my own personal opinion. There's a great story with Ra's al Ghul in here that runs throughout the art, that runs throughout the run. There's a great Renee Montoya story. In the second volume, there's a great Mad Hatter story. Also in this volume, there is a Poison Ivy arc as well, which is really interesting. This is following No Man's Land. So his detective run follows right after No Man's Land. And so they have like a central park, kind of like in New York in Gotham City, and Poison Ivy has taken that over since No Man's Land. And so they pretty much send Batman in after her to get her to leave and also let go these children who she has working for her and living in this like forest palace that she's built. So that was a really interesting story.
There's a question. Can one get into New Gotham blind? It looks great.
Yes, I would say you definitely can, because I haven't read all of No Man's Land. To be honest, I only have Cataclysm and Road to No Man's Land, and man, that was kind of hard for me to get through, to be honest. It was just the alternating art styles, and some of the artists just weren't good at all, and that really takes me out of the experience. Bad art just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I had a hard time getting into No Man's Land because it's so many different books coming together. It's not just Batman, it's not just Detective, it's, you know, Boiler and Catwoman and Red Robin. It's just so many different stuff, you know?
So you can just pick up New Gotham and get right into it.
I definitely think so, because that's what I did.
Okay.
All you need to know is about No Man's Land. I think most people have a cursory knowledge of what happens in No Man's Land, where pretty much Gotham, after an earthquake, becomes an uninhabitable space, but still gangs kind of take it over, and different villains take over different parts of the city. And obviously, Batman being Batman, he wins at the end of the day, and things go back to normal. But normal in Gotham isn't exactly normal for most of us. There's still a lot of ramifications following No Man's Land, but they definitely explain a lot of that stuff in this story. I would say it's definitely new reader friendly.
All right. Good.
Have you read it before, Jess?
No, I have book one. I need to get book two.
And this has a really cool story called Airtime, where Batman is chasing these, I think they're thieves, or I can't remember what they were doing, but he's chasing these bad guys, and he doesn't notice that these bad guys run this family off the road, and they are drowning in this pond in their car. And it shows you how much time they have left, and Batman fighting this villain. And you have to ask yourself, is Batman going to get there in time to rescue this family from drowning? Does he even know they are drowning, and how's he going to save them? I just really love this one-shot issue. And I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I think we all pretty much know how it's going to end to some degree.
They drown.
Right. Like most Batman comics, the villains win. So I really love this run. It's really cool. He has a new character called Sasha Bordeaux, because it's Greg Rucka, so he has to write a strong woman in this story, right? Because that's what he does best. With Lazarus, with Stumptown, he loves to write strong women, which is great. And Sasha Bordeaux is Bruce Wayne's bodyguard. And he's trying to figure out how he can push her away without her finding out he's Batman. Because Bruce Wayne has been kidnapped so many different times, there have been so many different issues that Wayne Enterprises forces him to have a bodyguard. Even though, as we all know, Batman doesn't need a bodyguard. So that's Sasha Bordeaux right there. And it's really interesting, and the question is, does she find out about his identity, and what does she do when she finds out about his identity? and I don't want to spoil that.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's a really good book. I would give it a try. If you're not into this art style, I would still give it a try. I think it really grows on you. I'm not sure what you think about the art style or not. Do you have an opinion?
It looks fine to me. I like the color palette scheme thing too.
Yeah, I really love that part of it. I think colorists are very underrated in comics.
Yeah.
Because color is able to elicit emotion out of you and really bring in the major feelings of the book. And without it, it's lacking in that. And so I think color is really important. We don't really think about it that much as comic book fans. So yeah, that's my second choice. Batman New Gotham Volume 1 and Volume 2. And like I said, I haven't read Batwoman by Greg Rucka, but I'll be picking that up soon.
Yeah, you will be happy with that.
I'm sure it's going to be good.
You will be happy with that.
And here's what they both look like side by side, because I know I like to see what the spines look like.
Mm-hmm.
Other people would as well.
My third choice, I don't know if it's underrated, but I feel like there's a little bit of backlash against this character because DC's been pushing her so much. And there shouldn't be, because this is a really good book with top-notch art and writing by her creators. And it's extremely fun. And it's Batman, Harley, and Ivy, the deluxe edition. It's by Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, her creators. And it is just... it's just a blast. It's got the great Bruce Timm art. Paul Dini is a great writer, and everything he writes, I think, is great. It's got a very fun color palette. Speaking of colors, Batman is in this book, so it does technically count as a Batman book. I'll find a picture of him here soon, but it's mostly a Harley and Ivy book. But here's a picture of Batman right there. I'll find Batman here soon enough. But it's just the whacked out capers. I read this before I even read the Palmiotti and Connor run that made me fall in love with her. And this is the kind of thing that I really latch on to that made me fall in love with her. So I don't know. I think that this is the kind of book, if you hate Harley or you're tired of her, this is the kind of thing, not the Palmiotti run, but this is the kind of thing by the original creators that you should give a shot, because since it's written by her creator, this is where you're going to get the original flavor of exactly what she's like. And this is where you're going to get all the kind of fun that she was originally intended to have. And she and Poison Ivy have a thing going, and it's really sweet, I think, because Ivy, she gets Poison Ivy into all these kind of crummy, terrible situations, and Ivy can't help but forgive her because she cares for her so much. And Harley is just a complete screw up when it comes to Poison Ivy. And here's Batman. Finally. Harley gets Ivy and Harley into all kinds of trouble, and Ivy has to figure a way out of it. And it's just really fun. And I went over this in one of my videos that about comics, that it's okay to read a fun comic, to just turn your mind off, relax, and just read a fun comic. That not everything has to be east of west, or not everything has to be,
depressing.
Watchmen. Not everything has to have 5 layers of meaning and stuff. We can just turn our minds off and, don't watch the evening news. Don't read a newspaper. Just relax and turn off the world and just have fun. And these books are fun. I really mean it when I say it's okay to have fun when you're reading a comic book, because that's what they were invented for. Just having fun, just relaxing and having fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what Batman, Harley, and Ivy is just fun.
Right, and I believe some of the stuff you were showing us from that book, there is an animated episode about that in the animated series. I think
Batman animated series.
Yeah, is there like a holiday issue in there where they where Poison Ivy takes over Bruce Wayne's mind and gets him to buy them stuff?
Oi to the world.
Maybe, but there's an episode in the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, which is like the 4th season of the show, where it's a holiday episode where there's 3 different stories that happen in that episode, and that's one of them, where they take over Bruce Wayne's mind through Poison Ivy and they get him to buy him a bunch of stuff at the store.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
That's a great episode, and it looks like that's what was happening in that one story.
Yeah. Right, I remember that one.
And also, Bruce Timm and Paul Dini did Mad Love.
Right.
I'm sure that you read and you also enjoy, and that became an episode in Batman the Animated Series.
Mm.
And so they do allow their comics to influence the show and vice versa.
Okay, so say I go on to eBay and I'm looking for that limited edition that you got. What do I type in?
Do you want me to go grab it from downstairs real quick?
Yes, I do.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay, we're just hanging on, waiting for him to get the Batman Adventures Blu-rays, the limited edition that I should have gotten and I flaked on because we're going to have a show based on Batman. Whoa, that was fast.
I'm sorry, keep talking. I'll show you whenever you're done talking.
I was just filling airtime. I was just vamping.
All right. Were you just like singing or doing that song you always do?
No, I was explaining to the audience where you were.
Okay. So this is the limited edition.
Okay.
And it's called Batman, the Complete Animated Series Deluxe Limited Edition.
Okay, wait. So hold it right there.
All right.
And I'm going to take a picture of it. Why isn't it taking a picture? Okay, do it again.
Right here.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah. The Deluxe Limited Edition. Batman Blu-ray. Chris M says they are like $100 on eBay. And you paid what? 70?
I think I paid around, I pre-ordered it months before it came out. So I think I got it for around 60 for a pre-order. But this is like how it's set up. It has like different sleeves and stuff.
Oh man, that looks so cool.
I would definitely get this if I were you. And it also has Batman Mask of the Phantasm, the movie, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
And it also has Batman Sub-Zero, which is decent, but it's nowhere near as good as Mask of the Phantasm. And so I really enjoy this collected edition of the animated series.
No, I don't screen shoot anything, L. Denver. I take pictures with my phone. I'm super, super old school.
And in the back is just a cool bat symbol.
Okay.
And like I said, I think it was like $70 for the regular edition, but I mean, if you're willing to spend an extra $30, might be worth it.
Chris M says that's not what he saw, but after this, I'll do some research. I'll consult with my video guys and see what they say.
But I think you'll be surprised at how much crossover there is between the Paul Dini and Bruce Timm comics, and especially the 4th season of this show. There's a lot of cross-pollination there.
Okay.
So.
Well, this next segment's going to go really fast for me because the overrated stories I got rid of.
Oh, can I cover my last underrated book real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I'm
sorry. I thought you did. I apologize.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure I was able to get to it. I'll cover this quickly.
That's fine.
The last one is Paul Dini's detective issues. I really enjoyed Heart of Hush. I really think this is even better than Hush itself. I know that's probably blasphemous, but that's my opinion, because I think that Hush was very underdeveloped in Hush, and I didn't really understand his motivations and why he did what he did. And Paul Dini, like he always does in the animated series, he makes the villains relatable, and he shows us why they became villains. But it's so easy just to make them mustache twirling and just hate everyone for no reason. But he really shows you why Hush is the way he is and why he hates Bruce Wayne so much. I'm not going to say who Hush is.
Right.
Most of you probably know, but I don't want to ruin it, even though it's really an old story. But you'd like this a lot. Have you read this, Jess?
A long time ago, but I don't have it. I need to get it.
It's in a paperback that's really accessible.
Heart of Hush. Okay.
You could probably get it for like $10 off in stock trades, if not cheaper.
Oh, it's still available?
Yes, this one is. A lot of the ones I'm going to show you are not available.
Oh, you're killing me.
This one you can read you can read alone as long as you read Hush.
Okay.
So you don't need to have all the other Paul Dini stuff. But I really love this art because it's Dustin Nguyen who did Descender, and I think he is such a great artist. I think he's really underrated, especially when he does watercolors, which he does in Descender. He does the pencils and he does the watercolors in that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But here, like he'll do his own covers. He'll draw it and do his watercolors as well, which I love. And so this is a really, really good story, which I, again, think is better than the actual Hush storyline. And this is readily available. You can get it. It's only $15 cover price, so like what, $8 on in-stock trades? $9. Wouldn't be very much. And then there's also Batman Private Casebook by Paul Dini. And this has a bunch of different isolated stories. They're isolated cases. There's one to reel you in, Jess. There's a big Zatanna story. And so you need to get this.
Private Casebook.
Yes. There's a Ra's al Ghul story, which is really cool. There's a Mad Hatter story. I really like this cover. Like I said, he does great covers. This is still Dustin Nguyen on art. And there's a really cool story about Batman getting this famous suit of armor that makes him stronger and that makes him faster. But the question is, does it drive him to violence? Does it drive him to push the limits too much? And how Batman handles that. And it's really, really cool. And I love the way the story ends and talks about how Batman has these limits for a reason and how he's able to be in control of his anger, which I really liked. There's a lot of good stories in here. Like I said, there's the Zatanna story, Mad Hatter. There's the ventriloquist as well. He gets a new Scarface gets a new ventriloquist, a woman.
Oh.
And you find out why that is in this book as well. There's a big reason why that happens. What happened to Arnold Wesker? How did Scarface get this new ventriloquist? And how is she able to do what she does?
Oh my gosh, that story alone makes me want the book.
Right. I think you'd really like this book, Jess. But I have some bad news for you.
It's out of print.
But it looks like you can find it on Amazon, but just it'd be over cover price. Maybe you can find it on eBay.
Okay. What is the name of that one?
Batman Private Casebook.
Batman Private Casebook. Okay.
And Blue G says excellent book.
Okay.
So I would try to get that in Heart of Hush, even though Heart of Hush is much more available, much more easily accessible at this point.
Okay.
And Paul Dini also has a lot of other Batman stuff.
Yeah.
He has Batman Detective.
I have that.
Batman Death in the City. And this list forced me to track them down because I want them. And I was able to actually get them for cover from someone on the group. And they're on their way right now. So I can't show them. But I'm really excited about that. And just really quick, I also got these from the library because they're very hard to find. I got Batman Streets of Gotham. I don't know if you've ever read these. These are really good. There's Batman, what's it, Hush Money. This is really good.
Streets of Gotham. Let me check to see.
Batman Leviathan.
Leviathan. That sounds familiar.
Batman House of Hush. Yeah, the House of Hush. So I got these from the library because they're out of print.
I have Batman Streets of Gotham, House of Hush, and Leviathan.
Okay.
What am I missing?
Say that again. There's Hush Money, Leviathan, and House of Hush. There's
I'm
three.
missing Hush Money.
Okay, that's the first one.
Okay. Okay, I need Hush Money.
And I have them from the library because I couldn't find them for a decent price anywhere else, but I still wanted to read it. And I'm really hoping that one day they'll release like a Dini omnibus, which is probably.
Oh yeah.
But I would buy that day one, or even like Thick Trades or something.
No, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. It looks like it's all in Cyrillic or something. This is our first video ever, and about over and underrated characters, and we're always going to be talking about Batman. These are Baturdays in the Batcave, so we'll always be talking about Batman until we all run out of books to talk about.
I doubt we will.
Yeah, I doubt we will too.
Well, you said this wouldn't take too long with the overrated books. Do you want to start off with your first overrated book?
My first overrated book, I mean, I can talk about the two that aren't here anymore because I got rid of them. Batman Noel, I think, was way overrated. It seemed to be popular. Lee Bermejo.
Yeah.
It was nothing but a giant cliche to me. I don't have it to show you because I gave it away to the library. I thought it was remarkably trite, cliched. It didn't have a redeeming factor in it at all. I thought that Batman was just an characteristically grump that wasn't even willing to I don't know. He's more like Judge Dredd than he was Batman for me. I just thought it was ridiculous, and I didn't see the point in the book that there was no redeeming quality to him, and I wasn't. The art was nice. Lee Bermejo is a very good artist.
Yeah.
But the art was very nice, but the writing didn't do it for me at all, and I was only too happy to give that book away.
I never read it.
How I felt.
I've never read that one before.
Okay. Well, you may have a different feeling than I did.
Well, we'll have to review Batman Damned when it comes out, which has heart by Lee Bermejo, and it's written by Azzarello. So maybe you'll have a better opinion of that book.
I haven't read that book.
Me either. It'll come out in the hardcover in September, so we'll have to review that when it comes out.
Okay.
All right. So my first overrated book, I don't think this will be too controversial. It's probably the least controversial out of my list, and that is Batman the Cult.
Boy, that was sure popular in the day when it came out.
And I just read this past year, and man, was this derivative and just a repeat of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. Like even the talking heads, that's such a Frank Miller thing that he did in Dark Knight.
Oh wow, yeah, I forgot about that.
And they even redid like a page, like panel for panel, showing Batman's parents being killed. And granted, there's not many ways you can draw Batman's parents being killed because it's pretty much the same story over and over again. But look at this. That's pretty much panel for panel what happened in Dark Knight Returns. Like the angle of the gun and all that stuff. And this was 2 years after Dark Knight Returns came out. And you could tell they were like, we need to totally rip that off and capitalize on this story because everyone's loving it. And there's a lot of good stuff in here. It's by Jim Starlin and Bernie Wrightson, so the art is great. And some of the writing is good, but it's just, like I said, it's way too derivative and repetitive. And I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but the main villain, Deacon Blackfire, wants to break down the Batman, and he breaks down Batman so easily. And I couldn't believe that Batman, who is known for his tenacity and his will, would just give in like that. And he's like eating garbage in the sewers and stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. I love showing Batman as a human being. I love showing his humanity, but this just went too far for me. And it was trying to be edgy just to be edgy. It didn't really have a good story. And even like Batman has his big Batmobile at the end. Do you remember that moment in Dark Knight Returns when he's fighting the mutants in the Batmobile?
Yeah.
Look at this. They're just trying to outdo it by making it bigger and have huge wheels. Like, come on. Even that angle is the same angle from Dark Knight Returns. And I just feel like, come on, just do an original story. And the plot, there's so many plot holes, and it's just really big leaps in logic. And they really borrowed heavily from this for Dark Knight Rises in different ways. You can really see that with the sewer stuff and trying to break the Batman, then taking over Gotham City. I think this really was a big informative book for Dark Knight Rises, but I really didn't like it that much.
I picked up on that.
And it's always in Batman's top 20 books on those lists. And I just don't think it belongs there.
No,
That's
I agree with you.
So that was the least controversial of my three choices.
But the least controversial, okay.
So your turn.
I sold this book to somebody who wanted it. I sold it for a good price because I wanted it out of my house. I did not want it. This person did want it, so I didn't rip him off. He wanted it, and I did not. Just want to make that clear. I also happen to think this book is overrated. It is the absolute version of Dark Knight. The problem with the absolute version of Dark Knight is that it comes with Dark Knight Strikes Again. Taylor and I were in our first discussion for this show, and he reminded me that Strikes Again was in that absolute, and I said, "Oh yeah, why do I even have that? I've got an oversized version of Dark Knight Returns in this other book. Why do I even need that? I don't need that. I want that out of my house." So I decided, like right then and there, that Taylor was right. I needed that out of my house. So I sold it because Dark Knight Strikes Again is, I should probably buy that so I can pour root beer on that. I don't know how. Now this was Frank Miller in his prime. What was the? No, wait. There was 15 years apart, wasn't it?
Yeah, Dark Knight Returns came out in 1986. I believe that Dark Knight Strikes Again came out around 2000, 2001 because it was around 9/11.
Right. Okay. Strikes Again was remarkably terrible. I should buy a book of it just so I can pour root beer on it. That was truly heinous and did not deserve to be in that absolute. It sullied the absolute. It didn't deserve to be in the same room as Dark Knight Returns. Now that there's 15 years between, it makes sense that there's 15 years between. A lot can happen to a writer and artist in 15 years, as we have seen, because it happened to Frank Miller. I sold it so I don't have it to show you. It is way overrated. It drags down Dark Knight Returns and makes you wonder if Dark Knight Returns is even that good because the same writer did the following story. I remember buying it all excited that this was the latest Frank Miller Batman, and I wondered, these initials did not exist at that time, but out of my mouth came the initials WTF, or the equivalent of back then in 2000, 2001. WTF didn't exist back then. Some equivalent of it did. It was really awful. So I got rid of the absolute. I hope the gentleman that bought it is happy with it. He got it for a good price. I sold it below cover. So hopefully he is happy with it, and I'm happy with the money and the space that it freed up on my shelf.
I don't know, Jess. That's like selling someone a virus and saying, I'm hoping they're happy with it.
A virus?
Yeah, it's like saying, here you go. Here's a lethal virus. Hope you enjoy it. But Joe, IEQ sums this up perfectly. Strikes Again is poop. That's pretty much true.
I haven't read Master Race yet, though. I've heard various things about Master Race, but some say it's halfway enjoyable, some say it's not. The fact that people kind of are up and down on it says to me that I might be able to enjoy it.
Mediocre. It's okay. It's fine.
Well, that might be okay. I'm okay with an okay Batman story.
Joe Chip is really laying down some controversial words here, saying I think Dark Knight Returns is overrated. I think that's what he's saying, at least. He said I think even Dark Knight alone is overrated. I think he's talking about Returns.
I think Dark Knight alone is overrated, especially the art. I'm going to pour Dark Knight on my root beer. That's how much I dislike Dark Knight. That is controversial, Joe Chip, but it's okay. All opinions are okay in here as long as they don't hurt anybody.
Right. As long as you don't attack someone for liking something or not liking something.
That's right. We're okay with it.
So my next one's pretty controversial.
Oh, good.
I know some people, my third one's the most controversial. And I already mentioned its sequel, Batman Hush. I think, to be honest, Jess, your face was like, it was like I pulled a dead body out. And you're just like, okay.
You don't like Hush?
No. What's the topic? It's overrated.
Overrated. That's true. I don't
necessarily hate it. I like Hush. To be clear, don't hate me. I like Hush.
That's true.
I just think the story is very overrated.
Okay.
And it's painfully obvious who Hush is. If you say if you didn't know, okay, maybe I believe you. But I have a hard time believing you. I think it's really obvious who Hush is. And the saving grace of this book is the art. And it's Jim Lee at the top of his power. And he is so good. And he really makes this book a lot better than it is. Let me ask you a question, Jess. Do you really think this book would be as popular without Jim Lee art?
No.
Like, no one really talks about the story, to be honest. I mean, maybe they do a little bit, but I think it's just, there's so many cameos, there's so many twists that don't really make sense. I was disappointed in it. And Heart of Hush makes me actually like this more in retrospect because it explains why Hush does what he does.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to get that and read it then.
And so I think that retroactively makes me like it more because of that. But I just think overall the story is very lacking. Jeff Loeb wrote this, and he's usually solid. I think Long Halloween is much better, and the same with Dark Victory. I think the storylines are better. But the thing about his Batman books, they're all very similar. They're all like Gotham spanning mystery stories, trying to find the villain, trying to find the killer, and it always has massive cameos. And so his storylines are very similar. They all kind of have the same beats, same tempo. And like I said, again, I mean, look at this art. That's crazy. Huntress and Catwoman.
Yeah.
But this is a great drawn book. I don't think it's a greatly written book.
That's fair.
And so again, I like it. I think it's overrated though.
Okay. I get it. That's fair.
Averted.
Okay, and my last choice, I actually have still, but I think I might give them away to the library. Because I'm not going to read them again. I found them to be, what's the word? What's the word for not very exciting? Not very exciting? I found them to be not very exciting and not what he's capable of. He's capable of much better. I'm very disappointed in you, Scott. You're capable of much better. I imagine his mother saying this to him when he brought this home to show her. That would be All-Star Batman 1 and 2 from Rebirth. Scott Snyder had Jock and Francavilla and Tula Lotay on Ends of the Earth. And then the first one was John Romita Jr., but Declan Shalvey. Not a big JR fan, my own worst enemy. I don't know. These just did not seem like Scott Snyder. I don't even know if it felt like he mailed him in with this. It just seemed like he was out of ideas, or, I mean, I know these were popular because they were Snyder books and it is Batman. And anytime I say something bad about somebody like Snyder, I feel like I'm attacking him personally, and I'm not, because I like New 52 a lot, Snyder's run on New 52. But All-Star Batman just didn't seem fresh at all. It seemed like he lost interest or didn't have any ideas, or ran out of ideas, or lost interest. There was something lacking in the books that just didn't make them very interesting, and I found them dull and repetitive, and just lacking in what made New 52 so interesting is utterly lacking in All-Star Batman. And I've just decided I'm giving them away. They're taking up too much special space, and I need space more than I need anything else. So I'm going to be giving these away. I just decided.
Did you read the third volume, The First Ally?
I decided not to buy it.
That was definitely the best out of all of it.
It's what?
It was definitely the best out of all three of them.
Mm.
It was an arc with just Snyder and Raphael Albuquerque from American Vampire.
Oh.
So I thought that was the best. I do agree that it's his lesser Batman works. And Scott Snyder, he has so many high highs. But I know this isn't Batman, but one of the most frustrating reading experiences of my life as a comic fan, and just as a reader in general, was The Wake. The ending of that book made me so angry. And if I had root beer right now, I'd pour it on it because it's terrible. I have it in my closet because I'm ashamed to have it on my shelf.
I couldn't.
That book, the art was amazing, but just, oh my gosh, that ending was so stupid. It made no sense.
I don't think there's a person alive who would disagree with you, unless it was probably Scott Snyder himself. I remember going into Third Eye Comics because I was reading it in singles at the time, and I went up to Steve and I said, dude, what happened here? There was no ending. I mean, what happened? And he said, I don't know. I don't know what happened. And I said, the thing fell off a cliff. I mean, we had this whole story that was so great, and then there was no ending whatsoever. The book didn't finish. It just sort of petered out in blood and everything. And he's like, I know, I can't believe it.
You know what it felt like? Remember Monty Python, The Holy Grail, where they're about to have this huge battle at the end, and all of a sudden the police show up and arrest them and put them in the back of the paddy wagon? That's what it felt like. It was like, wait, what? And that was actually funny, and that was actually good. That's how I felt reading this. It was like, wait, that came out of nowhere and makes zero sense. What's going on? Are you serious?
Yeah.
The first half was good. The second half was not. And it made the first half worse.
It was so interesting up until the very end when nothing happened. There was no ending. I was really angry. I was really disappointed.
There's a lot of Scott Snyder comments in the chat. Batman Eternal sucks. Scott Snyder, any Batman is way, way overrated by Chris M.
Chris M tends to be
controversial opinion.
Chris M, yeah, he's cranky sometimes.
But again, that's his opinion. You can have it.
Yeah.
But The Wake, if you have the opinion that you like that book, I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. Peace of mind.
Nobody has that opinion. If they say it, they're just trying to be controversial.
Right.
Nobody's going to stick up for The Wake.
All right. So do you want me to jump into my final book?
Yes.
All right, Jess, before I bring this one out.
This sounds like it's a big controversial one.
Doesn't get in the way of our friendship and this show. And before I say this, I like this book. I just think it was way overhyped, and that made me have really high expectations that weren't met. Okay? And that is Batman White Knight.
Oh, really?
I like this book. Again, I really think the art by Sean Gordon Murphy is crazy good. I love it. I don't think he's a strong writer. That is, you know what's really weird? You would think that an artist who becomes a writer would be very visual, right? Not very wordy. Is that what you would assume?
Yeah, he is kind of wordy. Yeah,
it really slows down. I mean, look at that art. That's crazy with Arkham Asylum. That's great. But he's just so wordy, and it was just like plotting. And I thought it was really good early on. It really didn't fulfill its potential. Like, look at these word balloons. Come on. Like, I didn't see the art. Like, what's going on here? This is like a Kevin Smith comic book.
Ooh.
No, okay. It's not as bad as a Kevin Smith comic book. Again, I like it, but it was so wordy, and I wanted this to be a quick and breezy read, but it really took me a long time to finish, which isn't the sign of a great comic book. Sometimes it means you're trying to digest it and you really want to take it in, but that's not how I felt in this book. And you know what the weirdest part for me was, Jess? Is that he took a lot of his cues from Batman and Robin, the movie, the worst movie in Batman's history. Like the freeze gun and everything and all that stuff. It was just like you got that from Batman and Robin. And I just didn't understand. And
I never saw that movie, so I couldn't have made the comparison.
Well, you're lucky that you don't have that.
I knew to stay away from that movie.
And so I just really thought this book didn't really go anywhere. It had a lot of interesting potential, a lot of interesting questions. What if the Joker was able to rehabilitate himself? What if Batman goes too far and he becomes the villain instead of the Joker? I just thought it was a lot of unused potential because of the writing. I think if somebody else had written this, it would have been a lot better. And if he had done art, his art, like I said, is top notch, and you can't really critique that very much.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't think it was, Tom King's The Vision or, Watchmen or something, but I liked it, but I didn't think it was book of the year by any means. I liked it, but
Batman Curse of the White Knight comes out soon, and I'll buy it.
is that by Sean Murphy also?
To it, the follow-up.
Oh, it's the follow-up to that?
And Sergio agrees with me. Yes, thank you. I don't get all the fuss with White Knight. Yeah, I just think, again, if this book had just come out and there was no hype around it, I probably would have liked it more. But it was just so overhyped. It was just so bolstered up by people's opinions. I just thought it would be a lot better,
Yeah.
Sometimes the hype machine can take things too far and make you expect too much.
Yeah. I still don't know how I feel about Punk Rock Jesus.
I never read it.
I read it, and then I got him to do a sketch in it, and I bought it from him directly at AwesomeCon in 2017. And he was a nice guy. He let me take a picture with him. This was before he blew up. He really blew up like right after AwesomeCon, and took a picture with me, did a sketch in my book. I bought the book from him, spent some time with him. And then like last year's AwesomeCon, he was like, no sketches, no photos, no nothing. I'm too busy. And so he got way too busy. But I'm still not sure how I feel about Punk Rock Jesus. My first way through it, I thought it was an interesting idea, but I wasn't sure that I thought it was a really well-written book. I'm going to have to read it again. I certainly love his art. I think Joe the Barbarian is a really well-illustrated book. And
his American Vampire stuff's also really good.
I'm sorry?
His arc with American Vampire is also really good.
Yeah.
The World War II stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think he did a great job of translating Grant Morrison in Joe the Barbarian.
The biggest controversial opinion of the day: comics are overrated. Read manga instead.
Who says that?
Austin Caldwell.
How dare you?
Guys here.
Good heavens.
We're not Riley or Lou or Gio.
I don't know who's going to be taking. Do we know who's going to be taking over Batman after Tom King?
Not yet. I have a sneaking suspicion that it might be Bendis and
I do not want it to be Bendis.
I'm not saying it's going to be, but I have a suspicion. I think there'd be a lot of people who are upset about it. If we can get Bendis and Malieve from his Daredevil run, that'd be great.
Oh, now that'd be interesting.
They're good at crime. That's like their bread and butter. I know you like the Jinx World books.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd be okay with it as long as he taps into that old partnership they had in Daredevil all those years.
Yeah, that might be good.
Books of all time. So we'll see. I could be wrong. I just have no idea. I can't think of anyone who'd really take over at this point. I can't think of anyone who jumps off the top of my head. That's all I have in terms of overrated books.
Okay, and you helped me make a decision to give my all-star Batman away to some poor, starving Batman fans on the street.
There are a lot of them.
Right. So, are there any...
Brubaker, that's a great opinion.
That is.
Can you imagine Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips on a detective run?
Again? Oh my God.
Like, that would be unbelievable. That wouldn't be a good fit for the regular Batman book, but on detective, that would be crazy good.
To be like a real crime-solving Batman.
They won't ever do it. I think he's locked into creator work and TV stuff. He's never going to come back to superheroes, I don't think. Or maybe if he does, it'd be in a very small capacity. But that would be my biggest pick for a detective run.
Oh, now Austin Caldwell is just trying to push my buttons.
Do you know what my biggest dream though for Batman is? And it's not a possibility right now, but maybe one day. I would love to have Jason Aaron do a Batman run, to jump off of Marvel after he's done and do a Batman. He's great at crime too, like Scalped and Southern Bastards and stuff. I think he would be a great choice.
Yeah. As long as it isn't Mr. Hollow Earth. That's a Neil Adams reference.
Is that the Batman Odyssey that you love?
Yes. He really believes the Earth is hollow.
Don't you want to be buried with that book someday? That and the Neil Adams New Colored Edition?
Oh my God. That would be such bad mojo going into the afterlife. That would be such bad mojo. I don't know. This is all speculation. We have zero control over it. So
right. I have no idea. We'll see. I'm sure there'll be an announcement soon because someone has to start working on it.
Yeah, soon.
Right. They might even be working on it right now. Who knows?
How about you know who'd write a good Batman if they could get her away from Marvel? Kelly Thompson. Anything she writes is good. She writes good X-Men. She could write a good Batman.
I've never really read much by her. I can't think of anything I've read by her.
Oh, she's such a good writer.
I'm looking at my book, see if I can think of anybody else. A lot of people I would like have already done a Batman run. Even like Ed Brubaker already did stuff. So I can't think of anyone brand new off the top of my head. Except for Jason Aaron. But I don't know how much of a possibility that is with him being at Marvel.
Okay, well, I've actually got to wrap this up. Yeah, Gail Simone would be good too. We need to wrap this up. This has been our first episode of Baturdays in the Batcave. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week will be Kristen and I doing reviews on the books we read, and then the following Saturday after that, we're going to review. Taylor and I are going to review The Absolute of the Black Mirror, continuing our Baturdays in the Batcave. This is always going to be about Batman because Taylor is a self-avowed Batman nerd, and I'm just as happy to entertain a Batman nerd as I am any other kind of nerd, because what I like is the passion about the character.
Yeah, I think I heard you on a live show the other day saying I'm a Batman expert, and I was like, I'm definitely not an expert, but like you said, I'm definitely a Batman nerd and a Batman fan. So, yeah, so that next show, Black Mirror Absolute, that'll be July 13th, Saturday. Okay,
so you'd rather be a Batman nerd than Batman expert?
Yeah, I don't want to be called an expert because I haven't read, like I said, my knowledge really goes from the 80s and onward. To be an expert, I think you should know all the way back from the beginning. Because of when I was born and just not loving the Silver Age and the Golden Age. I don't want to call myself an expert, but I definitely have read a lot of Batman and watched a lot of Batman cartoons and movies and played a lot of video games. So I have a lot of knowledge, but yeah, definitely a Batman nerd for sure.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, that's all it takes to qualify to be on this show.
All right. Sounds good.
So we will see you in 2 weeks for Baturdays in the Batcave. And thank you to the chat. The chat was lively. I appreciate all the great comments in the chat. Those of you who are watching, I appreciate your watching. If you can, please hit the like button. Feel free to comment. We'll answer your comments. Subscribe, please, if you can. And peace and love. Peace and love. Thank you.
See ya.